Hello, book lovers. Welcome back to my channel. This is me, Yamini, and you are watching Procrastinate with Books. Today, I have a ton of books to share with you guys. So, just a disclaimer, please grab a coffee and let's tune in further. So, March has actually been going pretty well for me, and just to give you a glimpse, I have read a lot. It can officially be titled as my month of thrillers for 2023 because I have seriously read a lot of them this time and I still can't get enough. Starting off, the first book on my list today is The Villa by Rachel Hawkins. It's a thriller, obviously, and that too a grasping one. Now, I know a thriller with a spooky vibe combo may sound weird, but I think this worked pretty well for this book. The book is about two writers who are also friends right from the childhood or sometime, and they grew up to be a writer. Now, one of them actually falls into a writing slump and could not think of an idea to write anything further. What happens is the other friend takes her to a vacation in Italy during the summers, and there they spend a lot of time together and finding new inspirations to write something. Now, the villa in which they are staying is not just a normal villa, I would say. It has some little historical events, and because of the history of the house, it's considered haunted to some people. And now they just have been wandering around the house and around the city, and they think they have a hidden mystery to tap into. There are a few things that I absolutely loved about this book. One of them was the Italian summer house and the vacation in Italy. The whole idea is just amazing. The second part was the rivalries between the two friends who are friends but also in the same field. So they are both writers and both want their books to be a hit. And they don't really want each other stealing their ideas. So that kind of a rivalry position is also showcased in. And this plot actually follows a dual timeline, which makes things even more interesting. Next on the list is A Surprise Surprise, a non-fiction book, Personality Disorder by Alan Horowitz. Reading this book honestly make me feel like I am validating myself through someone else's perspective, that there are so many topics that were mentioned in the book that we think we might already know, but just because someone else is telling them to you or writing them in a book just acts like an external validation tick that yes, I've been thinking right and this has been accepted by the global society as well. So that just made a new perspective jump in from my angle, that why do we actually seek these validations and what kind of personalities do people have and what are the basic differences between characters and personality and how they do things go together, what is the different cures, what are the different illnesses, everything is basically talked about in this book. This book is definitely not one of those books that you may sit and binge read all at once. Even though it's very small, I do recommend to go at a very slow pace on this book. I myself took around 8 days to complete this one, where I just read a few chapters a day just to grasp in things further and keep my mind working around those angles that the book wanted me to discover as well. So yeah, my final verdict, however, on this book is that a few things were there that I found completely relatable and even new things that I would accept. But then there were a few things that I really just could not accept. And one of those things were actually the way introverts and extroverts were defined in the book, where they defined introverts as very self-involved creatures who don't really think about other people a lot and are basically only interested in their self-interest, which I think is very wrong. Anyways, so after this book, I obviously needed something light, and I actually went ahead and binge read a series that I was being recommended for almost a year. Finlay Donovan is killing it, and Finlay Donovan knocks them dead is a series. It also has a third part that I have not read because I've read some not so good reviews about it, but I read the first two books and they were hilarious. The first book actually starts with a plot where the writer is struggling to complete the book she actually started, for which she has already accepted 50% advance payment by the publisher, and now her agent is after her life to complete the story. And while she's explaining to her agent what kind of murder mystery she's actually planning to write, someone overhears her and considers her to be a hit woman rather than a writer, and then approaches her for a hit job, and from there things take a turn. Next book, Finlay actually stumbles upon a social post in the dark web area where one of the women want her ex-husband to be dead, and she has mentioned a hit job in a very courteous manner over there. Now, till now, nobody has accepted the job, but she's wondering who this woman is, why she wants her ex-husband dead, and has someone secretly accepted the job because there are secret attacks happening on her ex-husband, and now she's really worried about it. So that's where the story will take you. The good part about these two books is that both of them are a little intertwined but not definitely dependable on each other. So you can just read the first book, or you can read the first book and the second book, but not in the wrong order, because the second book basically leverages a lot of story plots and characters from the first book that are borrowed into the second book. So you have to read the first book first before reading the second book, but you can also just read the first book and not read the next books, because the story has a finish to its end. One thing though I'm definitely sure about these two books are they are so hilarious and literally funny bones level kind of hilarious that you would definitely enjoy it in case you decide to pick it. Next on my list is a fantasy book, Long Live the Elf Queen by J.M. Curl. It's the second book in the Elf Queen series, and things get picked up from book 1 to book 2, from the cliffhanger ending right to the next part in the very beginning itself. And currently, Thane and Lila are separated from each other, and even after their separation, they want to end up being together irrespective of what all destiny may hold, and they are putting all in their efforts to get things back on track. Now, the name of the Lightbringer in this whole series is dawning to come up with a lot of responsibilities, and Lila's connection to the Dark Mage is also something she's very worried about, because her next decisions may anticipate the course of time and may even change everything that she currently holds dear to. Now, I did actually love the world building throughout this whole series, but something that I'm kind of getting wanted to rid of or getting tired of is Lila's character. She is now being acting as a very easily manipulated being. Anything that anyone wants from her, they'll just act based on her predictive instances or things that she might do if put into a certain situation, and then they'll put her into that situation, and she exactly acts in that way, and they get what they want, and then she ends up repenting on her actions, which is just not the best thing you want to read in a book. My next read was The Prodigy by Jodie German, which is actually a thriller in a suspense way with a storyline of multiple point of views. Basically, two major point of views, one from the researcher's perspective, the other from the villain's perspective. The book actually made it very easy for me to side with the main researcher's perspective, because it was very well developed, and she was a personality basically with no social filter kind of a thing. She just speaks her mind outright, and she really doesn't understand what to speak where. She'll just talk about her job irrespective of what kind of feelings she's inaugurating in the other person's mind. She's basically very insensible around those aspects, but she's a great person to have with, and I think she is a good one. But the other perspective, which is from the villain's perspective, which I was really looking forward to read, because there are not many books that actually discuss a antagonist perspective into their books, but this one did. However, I did feel the other perspective was a little lacking compared to the other one, because the only thing the antagonist or the villain was basically doing was acting on instincts and the storyline provided by what happened to her sister, and nothing by herself. There weren't much character traits to be talked about specifically about her. So definitely a okayish read, but not really something that I would recommend for everybody to try. The next book that I read, also a thriller but way better than the last one, was The Sun Damage by Sabina Durant. It was a easy breezy, light and squeezy kind of a book that you may read on a beach, or in, I think it would be a perfect companion if you're planning to go to a beach someday. The thing that I did not like about this book were two things. One, the blurb of this book does not really give you enough insight about the story or what you will be expecting. I think you inside also get a really detailed narrative of what happened in Lulu's past, or not really Lulu, the person who is Lulu. Disclaimers, no spoiler alert. So about that person, a lot of things are discussed about her past, which actually makes it easy to correlate with the story and things she is doing in the present, and that's what makes this whole book more interesting compared to the whole setup that's going on around the house. I think that whole perspective outweighs it and makes it even more interesting compared to the plot of the book. Whereas talking about rest of the things in the book, I think they are pretty cozy, and especially talking about the beachside vibes and everything, I think they do a good job. And the second thing is the title of the book. I think it's a little off track with the story and could be something better. Next book on my list is from my favorite genre fantasy, The Waking Forest by Alyssa Weiss. It actually makes you question whether you are dreaming or is this a reality. Often throughout the book, I was confused whether I am actually reading about a reality situation in the book, or is she dreaming again, or is it a dream within a dream within a dream kind of a concept. And things get a lot intertwined, but it's just the concept of the book to make you that level of confused. So if you are getting confused while reading this book, I think the book is doing a good job. The book is actually divided in two separate modules. One particular modules talk about a wish granting witch in the forest, a princess with magical abilities, and a cruel king ruling the kingdom. And the other part actually talks about the normal people living their everyday lives in a modern day society, which is today, and things happening here and there, and that's how the story progresses. It's not exactly a fairy tale retelling, but it has few concepts borrowed in from the basic fairy tales of Sleeping Beauty and things introduced here and there to make the storyline more engaging. There wasn't any particular character who outshined to me that I liked the most, but the overall plot and the storyline were engaging enough for me to enjoy it. Next on my list is The Treason of Thorns by Laura Weymouth, which honestly speaking, I almost DNF'd it a month ago after reading 4 to 5 chapters or something, because there were so many editing issues with this book and there were some grammatical errors which were hard to look at. And I thought that this book just won't do me any good and I just kept it aside for some time. But then again, because the storyline was so interesting, I thought I might give this another try and I ended up loving it. The story of this book is about a girl named V who was exiled from her ancestral home because her father committed a treason, and when she returns back home after certain situations occur, she is here to see that the house she loved so much and was supposed to care after is now deteriorating in ruins. And mind you, this house is a magical one that actually needs a proper caretaker to be binded with it so that they can actually help them take care of the house and the house can use its magical abilities to the full extent. But that did not happen because no one was there and now it's almost in ruins. Now, everything she once loved is on the brink of an extinction and she just wants to make one last dying effort to save it all. And that's what the book is about. This is another book on my list of should have been another title for the book, and for this particular book, I think The Boulder's House would do a perfect justice to the title based on the story. Final book on my list is also another thriller. Now, I thought while I'm at it and in the swing, why not cover some more TBRs in my thriller category and make some dent into it? And so I picked up Daisy Darker by Alice Fenny. If there is one thing that I'm the biggest fan of in this book, it is the writing style of this book. I'm actually awed by it, and I do understand why so many people actually love this book. There are so many instances in this book that will make the writing style be commendable, and a few hilarious moments here and there too for you to amuse upon. Now, there are so many instances across the book that will keep you wondering why things are happening, who is doing them, who is behind all these things. But I'm actually glad that I was not able to solve this mystery because that made it even more better from a thriller's point of view. Obviously, if you could solve a mystery by yourself, I think the author did not do a job well, but in this case, they definitely did. And who solved the mystery, as in for the case? I think only ghosts would know the answer to that. I'm honestly not telling you the blurb of this book because you really don't need much info about this book before jumping in. You can just blind off yourself and jump into the story. You will absolutely love it. All that you need is already there into cover. And that, my friends, were all the thrillers and reading updates that I wanted to share with you guys for this time. It was a jumbo list that we have covered in today. I hope you had fun watching them, and do let me know whether I'm just the one who is in mood of thrillers this season or are you one of those too. Let me know in the comments down below. And if you have made so far into the video, drop me a knife emoji into the comment section to know that you have watched so far. I hope you all keep doing well, read interesting books, and have a happy time. Until our next video, keep your coffee strong and your TBRs long. Goodbye.